Look at your neighbor and tell them, you don't know what God is about to do with me. Because this is not just another year on the calendar. This is a collision year. A year where delay meets destiny. A year where tears turn into testimonies. A year where what tried to break you ends up building you. I didn't survive what I survived just to stay the same. I didn't pray those prayers, cry those nights, fight those silent battles just to settle for average. No, this is the year that everything changes for me, not because the world got easier, but because I got stronger. Not because opposition disappeared, but because my faith stood up. I walked into this year carrying scars, but I'm walking out with authority. I came in tired, but I'm leaving transformed. Something shifted when I decided I would no longer wait for permission to become who I was called to be. This year is not responding to my fear, it's responding to my faith. And today I announce it out loud so heaven can hear it, hell can feel it, and my future can't avoid it. This is the year that everything changes for me. Everything began to change the moment a decision was made, before there was any visible evidence that things were improving. Long before the breakthrough showed up, before doors opened, before prayers were answered in a way that could be seen or measured, there was a quiet but powerful moment where the heart said, I will not stay here. That decision did not come from comfort or certainty. It came from exhaustion with settling, from being tired of cycles that repeated themselves, and from a deep inner knowing that survival was no longer enough. That decision became the turning point, even though nothing around it seemed to shift at first. Most people wait for proof before they decide, but transformation works in reverse. You decide first, and then life responds. The moment you decide that this year will not look like the last one, something begins to realign on the inside. Your posture changes. Your tolerance for distractions decreases. Your spirit stops negotiating with fear. Even when circumstances remain the same, your response to them is different, and that difference is powerful. The breakthrough may not knock immediately, but it starts looking for you once the decision is made. That decision often feels lonely because it happens in private. No applause follows it. No announcement is made. It is formed in silent prayers, in long nights of reflection, in moments where giving up would be easier than pressing forward. Yet heaven pays attention to those unseen decisions. They carry more weight than public declarations because they are rooted in conviction, not emotion. When you decide before you see results, you are declaring that your faith is not dependent on evidence. This is why the enemy fights decisions so hard. He doesn't need to stop your future if he can delay your decision. As long as you remain undecided, you remain stagnant. But once the decision is settled, resistance increases because momentum has begun. Doubt may whisper, circumstances may challenge you, and people may question your confidence, but the decision anchors you. It becomes the line you refuse to cross backward. Once the decision is made, you stop waiting for motivation and start moving with discipline. You no longer ask if you feel ready, you act because you are committed. The decision becomes a compass that guides your choices, your habits, and your priorities. Even setbacks lose their power to define you because you already decided you are moving forward. Failure becomes feedback, delay becomes development, and pressure becomes proof that something new is being formed. In time, the evidence catches up with the decision. What started internally begins to manifest externally. Opportunities align, strength increases, and clarity sharpens. Looking back, you realize the real miracle was not the breakthrough itself, but the moment you decided to believe before you could see. That decision marked the true beginning of change, because everything that followed was simply catching up to what had already been settled in your spirit. What you went through was not designed to destroy you, even though it felt unbearable while you were in it. The pain, the setbacks, the losses, and the moments where you questioned yourself did not come to erase your future. They came to shape it. Every experience that tried to break your spirit ended up strengthening it. Even if you did not recognize it at the time, you are still standing not because the journey was easy, but because there was something inside you that refused to quit. That resilience was not accidental, it was being developed. Your past holds lessons, not labels. It does not define who you are becoming, but it explains how you were prepared. The disappointments taught you discernment. The failures taught you humility and focus. The delays taught you patience and endurance. Even the betrayals sharpened your awareness and clarified who truly belongs in your life. What once felt like wasted time was actually training ground for wisdom, strength, and emotional maturity. You did not lose years. You gained insight that cannot be taught in comfort. There were seasons where you survived on faith alone, when clarity was absent and answers were delayed. Those moments forced you to trust without understanding, to move forward without guarantees. That kind of faith builds depth. It teaches you how to stand when support disappears and how to believe when evidence is scarce. The past did not weaken your faith, it refined it. What remains now is not fragile belief, but tested confidence. The weight you carry today is not the weight of shame, but the weight of experience. You have been in storms that taught you how to navigate rough waters. You have faced silence that trained you to listen inwardly. You have endured pressure that expanded your capacity. This is why you can now handle responsibilities that once would have overwhelmed you. The past conditioned you for the demands of your future, even when it felt unfair. What once embarrassed you is now evidence of growth. The chapters you wanted to hide are the same ones that prove you have survived transformation. You are not walking into this new season naive or unprepared. You are walking in aware, alert, and grounded. You know what it costs to rebuild, so you protect what you build. You know how quickly things can fall apart, so you move with intention. That awareness is a gift. When you understand this, you stop resenting your past and start respecting it. You realize that nothing was wasted. The struggle did not disqualify you, it trained you. The pain did not end your story, it gave your voice authority. Now, when you speak from experience, not theory. When you stand with credibility. Your past did not stop you. It shaped you into someone capable of carrying what is next. Belief alone is powerful, but belief that never moves will eventually grow frustrated. Faith was never meant to be passive or silent. It was designed to be expressed through action, through steps taken even when the ground feels uncertain. Real faith shows up in motion. It gets up when fear says stay still. It moves forward when logic demands proof. Faith is not just what you say you believe, it is what you are willing to act on before the outcome is guaranteed. Many people confuse faith with waiting, but waiting without movement can quietly turn into avoidance. Faith does not deny fear, it refuses to obey it. There will always be reasons to delay, to hesitate, to wait until everything feels perfect. Yet faith understands that clarity often comes after obedience, not before it. The step you are afraid to take may be the very step that unlocks direction, confidence, and momentum. Movement does not have to be dramatic to be meaningful. Sometimes faith looks like consistency in small choices that no one else notices. It looks like showing up again after disappointment, trying again after failure, and staying disciplined when motivation fades. These quiet acts of obedience are powerful because they build trust within you. Each step strengthens your confidence and reinforces the belief that you are capable of more than you thought. When faith begins to move, resistance often increases. Doubt gets louder, criticism becomes sharper, and challenges appear more frequently. This is not a sign that you are doing something wrong, it is confirmation that something is shifting. Movement disrupts comfort zones, and discomfort is often the doorway to growth. Faith understands that progress rarely feels safe, but it always leads somewhere better than staying stuck. Action gives faith substance. Without action, belief remains an idea. With action, belief becomes a force. When you move, you give your faith something to work with. You create alignment between what you say you believe and how you live. That alignment produces integrity, and integrity produces power. You no longer feel divided between desire and behavior. You become focused and intentional. Faith in motion also changes how you see setbacks. Instead of viewing obstacles as signs to stop, you begin to see them as signals to adjust. You learn to pivot without quitting, to adapt without surrendering your vision. Movement teaches resilience. It reminds you that progress is not always linear, but it is always possible if you keep moving. In time, the results of faith in motion become visible. Doors open that never would have opened if you had stayed still. Strength develops that you did not know you possessed. Opportunities appear not because you waited perfectly, but because you moved courageously. Faith was never meant to be hidden inside belief alone. It was meant to be activated through action, because when faith moves, everything around it begins to respond. Every new season demands a new way of thinking, and growth always exposes what can no longer come with you. You cannot step into a different level of purpose while holding on to old patterns that once felt familiar but now feel limiting. What protected you in one season may restrain you in the next. Mindsets that were formed in survival will not sustain you in expansion. If everything is changing, then the way you think must change too. Old mindsets are comfortable because they are predictable. They know how to keep you safe, but they also know how to keep you small. They whisper caution when courage is required and offer excuses when discipline is needed. These ways of thinking are not always negative. Many of them were necessary at one point. But seasons shift, and what once helped you cope can quietly begin to cap your potential. Growth requires the humility to admit that familiar thinking may no longer be sufficient. This is why transition often feels uncomfortable. Your environment may be shifting faster than your perspective, creating internal resistance. You want new results, but you keep reaching for old responses. You pray for change, but you react from habit. The tension you feel is not confusion, it is an invitation to evolve. New levels demand new perspectives, and the discomfort is simply evidence that you are being stretched beyond what you have known. Letting go of old mindsets does not mean forgetting where you came from. It means refusing to let past limitations dictate future possibilities. It means recognizing that fear-based thinking has an expiration date. Doubt may have kept you alert during difficult times, but it cannot lead you into abundance. Scarcity thinking may have helped you survive, but it will not allow you to thrive. To grow, you must challenge the inner narratives that tell you to stay cautious when opportunity calls. Renewal of the mind is an ongoing process. It requires awareness, repetition, and intentional effort. You must question thoughts that automatically arise and ask whether they align with who you are becoming. This is not about pretending challenges do not exist. It is about refusing to let them define your limits. As your thinking changes, your responses change. As your responses change, your outcomes begin to shift. The most difficult part of growth is not learning something new, but unlearning what no longer serves you. Releasing outdated beliefs can feel like loss, but it is actually preparation. You are making room for clarity, confidence, and vision. When your mindset aligns with your season, you stop fighting the future and start flowing with it. You cannot carry yesterday's thinking into tomorrow's calling. New seasons require mental renewal, emotional maturity, and spiritual alignment. When you let go of old mindsets, you make space for new strength. You discover that growth was never about changing who you are, but about shedding what you are no longer meant to be. Pressure has a way of revealing what is really happening beneath the surface. When resistance increases, it is easy to assume something has gone wrong, but often the opposite is true. Resistance does not appear randomly. It shows up when movement threatens what has been comfortable, familiar, or stagnant. The moment you begin to shift, to grow, to step beyond what you have known, pressure rises. That pressure is not meant to stop you. It is meant to shape you. Every meaningful change is preceded by tension. The discomfort you feel is evidence that you are no longer settling. When you decide to rise, the environment responds. Doubt challenges you, fear tests you, and obstacles appear more frequently. This is not coincidence. Resistance is proof that you are close to something significant. If there were no value in where you are going, there would be no opposition trying to slow you down. Pressure refines focus. It forces you to clarify what truly matters and what can be released. Under pressure, distractions lose their appeal and excuses lose their power. You begin to see clearly what deserves your energy and what has been draining it. The very weight you thought would crush you becomes the force that sharpens your discipline and strengthens your resolve. Pressure strips away what is unnecessary so what is essential can emerge. Growth often feels uncomfortable because expansion requires stretching beyond familiar limits. Muscles grow under tension, and so does character. When pressure increases, capacity expands. You discover strength you did not know you possessed. You learn how to endure without becoming bitter, how to stand without becoming rigid. Pressure teaches balance, patience, and resilience. It prepares you for the responsibility that comes with elevation. Many people retreat at the first sign of resistance, mistaking pressure for warning instead of confirmation. But those who understand growth recognize that resistance is often the signal that breakthrough is near. The hardest moments usually appear just before change becomes visible. The struggle intensifies because something is about to give way. The process may be uncomfortable, but the outcome is worth the endurance. Pressure also exposes alignment. It reveals whether your foundation is built on convenience or conviction. When things become difficult, superficial commitment fades, but true purpose remains. Pressure asks hard questions and demands honest answers. It pushes you to choose between comfort and calling, between fear and faith. In those moments, clarity emerges. When you stop resisting the pressure and start learning from it, everything changes. You no longer see obstacles as enemies, but as instructors. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more focused. The resistance you face is not meant to defeat you, it is meant to develop you. So when pressure rises, do not assume you are moving in the wrong direction. Often, it is the clearest indication that you are exactly where you need to be. Resistance is not punishment, it is preparation. And the pressure you feel today is shaping you for the shift that is already on its way. Change begins in the unseen realm of words before it ever appears in visible form. What you speak consistently shapes what you expect, and what you expect influences how you move. Declarations are not empty phrases, they are alignments of belief, intention, and direction. When you speak change before you see change, you are choosing faith over fear and vision over circumstance. Your words become the first evidence of the future you are preparing for. Silence often feels safer than speaking boldly, especially when reality contradicts what you hope for. Yet silence can quietly agree with limitation. When you declare change, you interrupt old narratives that have kept you stuck. You challenge patterns that no longer serve you. Speaking out loud forces your mind and spirit to align with possibility rather than restriction. It reminds you that current conditions do not have the final say. Words carry power because they influence focus. What you speak repeatedly becomes familiar, and what becomes familiar starts to feel possible. When you declare growth, strength, and transformation, your attention shifts toward opportunities instead of obstacles. This shift changes how you respond to challenges. you begin to act in ways that support the future you are declaring. Speech sets direction long before results appear. Declaring change does not mean denying reality. It means refusing to be ruled by it. You can acknowledge difficulty without surrendering to it. When you speak with intention, you create space for resilience. Your words become anchors in moments of doubt. They remind you of who you are becoming when emotions fluctuate and confidence wavers. Declarations help you stand firm when circumstances attempt to shake your resolve. There is also accountability in speaking change out loud. When you declare your intentions, you reinforce commitment. Your words hold you responsible to the vision you have articulated. They call you forward when you are tempted to retreat. Speaking change strengthens discipline because it aligns your language with your goals. What you speak consistently, you begin to protect and pursue. Over time, declarations reshape identity. You stop seeing yourself through the lens of past failures and start viewing yourself through the lens of growth. The words you choose reinforce this new identity. Confidence grows not because everything is perfect, but because your language supports progress. You begin to embody what you have been declaring. Eventually, what was once spoken in faith begins to manifest in reality. Opportunities emerge, courage increases, and momentum builds. The change that started in words becomes visible in action and outcome. Looking back, you realize that speaking change was not arrogance, it was preparation. It aligned your spirit with your destiny. When you speak before you see, you give life to possibility. You set direction for growth. You remind yourself that the future is not something you wait for, but something you participate in creating. Your voice becomes a catalyst, and through it, the change you declared begins to take shape. Before I sit down, let me leave you with this. Don't you dare step back into tomorrow acting like today didn't shift something in you. You didn't just hear a speech, you received a summons. Something has been awakened, and it will not let you return to the version of yourself that settled, survived, and stayed silent. That season is over. You are not walking out of here the same way you walked in. The weight you carried came with an expiration date. The fear that followed you has lost its authority. The delays that tried to define you have just been overruled. This is not the end of your struggle. It is the end of your stagnation. Stand tall in the middle of uncertainty. Walk boldly even when the path is unclear. Declare it while your hands are still empty, because heaven responds to faith, not evidence. When resistance rises, remember, it's confirmation. When pressure intensifies, know this. Something is being formed that cannot stay hidden much longer. So when the enemy reminds you of who you used to be, remind him of who you are becoming. Lift your head, square your shoulders, and step forward with authority. This is not just a new chapter. This is a turning point. Say it with conviction, live it with courage, and watch it unfold. This is the year that everything changes for me.